floor.
Let him in.
Lock us out.
Blackrod!
You're the Skinner. David, what a dreadful thing to say.
Members of the House of Commons, the Lords who are duly authorised by virtue of Her Majesty's Commission to declare the opening of Parliament desire the presence of this Honourable House in the House of Peers to hear the Commission read.
Order. Under the provisions of Standing Order Number 1A, I'm now required to ascertain whether Sir Lindsay Hoyle is willing to be chosen as Speaker. I call Sir Lindsay.
Thank you, Father of the House. First of all, I'd like to thank the constituents of Chorley for allowing me to put myself forward as Speaker. I'd also like to welcome all new members to the House. Thank you, Sir Peter. Thank you, Sir Peter. May I say many congratulations on your new role as Father of the House. Of course, this is nothing new to your family. As you know, you've got great history in this role. You have served this place and your constituents for 44 and a half years. Just goes to show all newcomers becoming MP, it really can be a job for life. And I don't think this is the end just yet. Can I say, it's been an absolute privilege to serve as Deputy Speaker for the last 9 years, and as Speaker for a full 2 days. I've got to say, It made election pretty easier, I've got to say. And of course, Parliament was dissolved last month. And as I say, it will be an honour to serve again in this Parliament, but hopefully this time for a little longer. As I said before, a Speaker has to be trusted, and trusted, I believe, as a deputy. I have a proven track record of being impartial, independent and fair. Allowing members to exercise their right to speak, regardless of the length of service. Having served on the backbenches, and I thought the new MPs would give me a bit of a boost on that. Don't let those who've been here a lot longer start dictating all that. Having served on the backbenches myself for 13 years, I understand how important it is for backbenchers to be able to hold the government to account and to promote the causes that are dear to them.
You're here.
On that basis, I submit myself to the House as your Speaker and your champion, and ensuring that my office is open to all. Thank you.
I call the honourable member for Wigan to move the motion.
Thank you. I beg to move that Sir Lindsay Hoyle do take the chair of this House as Speaker. And I am delighted to propose someone who has been a great friend, not just to me, but for many of us here on all sides of the House. When I arrived in this place nearly 10 years ago as a newly elected MP, it was a daunting experience. For those of us who haven't spent most of our lives in buildings like these, it can be incredibly overwhelming. And as the former member for North West Durham said when she arrived, this place reeks of privilege, and finding your confidence and your voice for your constituents takes practice and it takes time. But it also takes friendship and support from other people. And it should be a comfort to all the new members of this House to know that you will find a great friend in our Speaker. With his typical Lancashire warmth, you will always find his door open for a mug of Yorkshire tea and of course a hobnob. In fact, one of the stories I was told about Lindsay a few years ago was a time when he arrived unannounced, as he often does, in another MP's office, sat down and said, "Right, put the kettle on then." "Yorkshire tea," said the MP. "Absolutely," says Lindsay with enthusiasm, adding, "There's only two good things about Yorkshire, the tea and the M62 taking place." So if there are... If there are any Yorkshire MPs who would like to change their minds, now is the time.
I didn't say which way the road went.
But I'm sure you won't, because Lindsay, above all else, has always been a fair and unpartisan Deputy Speaker, even to those who hail from God's own country. Because he knows that to privilege some voices over others is to silence people in our communities up and down the country. Of course, he can take this lack of partisanship a little bit too far. In 2017, Lindsay asked me to come and launch the general election campaign for him in his, what was then, a marginal constituency of Chorley. There's one junction on the motorway from Wigan to Chorley, and I was driving down the motorway and I started to see these enormous billboards looming up out of the distance. Great big blue billboards for a strong and stable Chorley. And I started to panic and I thought, my God, they're targeting this place. Lindsay hasn't got a hope. I've got to get there, I've got to motivate his supporters, and I've got to get people out. And then I looked closer, and on these billboards was Lindsay's face. Vote Lindsay Hoyle for a strong and stable Chorley. I think the honourable member for Maidenhead will be pleased to have inspired students. And it may not have worked out so well for the other side, but it certainly worked out well for Lindsay, and he was returned here and became Deputy Speaker again. Mm-hmm. And he's always made the effort, seriously, to work with people and respect people from all sides of the House. And many of us on this side are deeply saddened by the loss of our friend from this place, the former MP for Bolsover. But it is a comfort to know that Lindsay has a cat named Dennis Skinner. And be reassured that he never picks sides. He also has a parrot called Boris. Now, there is a more serious point to make. When we chose Lindsay Hoyle to be our Speaker, someone back home said to me, I can't believe that he was allowed to do it. Wigan and Chorley are right next door to each other. They're towns where people have felt for a very long time that things aren't working for them. And just let that sink in for a moment. I can't believe that he was allowed to do it. What does it say about how people feel in those communities? Communities that have just sent shockwaves through the political system, many changing hands for the first time in 100 years. What does it say that they see Parliament as a whole as a bastion of privilege where ordinary people like them cannot wield power? So for all of us in this House, whether we've won or we've lost, we have done this place a service by electing someone to be our face and our voice who people many miles distant from here see as one of their own. Many of us have known for some time in this place that the system is not working. I've had those conversations in the division lobbies and behind closed doors with members of Parliament from all political parties. We can feel the ground crumbling beneath our feet. We have seen it and we have felt it and we must give voice to it. And that is why I am relieved, I am proud, and I am honoured to propose that Lindsay Hoyle takes the chair today. Thank you.
The question is that Sir Lindsay Hoyle do take the chair of this House as Speaker. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Before I take the chair as Speaker-elect, I wish to thank the House for the honour that is again bestowed upon me. I'm aware that it is the greatest honour it can give to any of its members. I pray that I shall justify its continuing confidence, and I propose to do all within my power and pressure to cherish its best traditions. Thank you to you, Lisa. I had to get that bit right, I got it. Before I call the Prime Minister, could I just say that we have a very busy day ahead of us with further ceremony in the House of Lords, and most returning honourable members have to be sworn in. I therefore encourage short speeches from party leaders and discourage other members from seeking to catch my eye. As much as I would like to bask in that, I think it's more important that we get members sworn in. That's my commitment to the House. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker-elect, I'm sure the whole House will join me in sending our condolences to the families and friends of Jack Merritt and Saskia Jones, murdered in the terrorist attack near London Bridge during the election campaign. And we pay tribute once again to the emergency services and to the members of the public for the bravery they showed. Mr. Speaker, and congratulating you on your office and congratulating the honourable right member for Wigan who's just spoken, I want to say, I don't know about you, Mr. Speaker-elect, but as you survey this House from your eminence, he's still Speaker-elect, from your eminence, with the characteristic beam that has brought you such deserved popularity, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what you think, but I mean absolutely no disrespect to those who are no longer with us, Mr. Speaker, but I think that this Parliament is a vast improvement on its predecessor. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, I would say it is one of the best parliaments this country has ever produced. With more female members than ever before, with more black and minority ethnic members than ever before, and it is also, Mr. Speaker, and I incarnated in your person, Mr. Speaker, a vastly more democratic Parliament, because this Parliament is not going to waste the time of the nation in deadlock and division and delay. On Friday of this week, this Parliament is going to put the withdrawal agreement Friday in the pop tipping, as we say in Wales, and then this new democratic Parliament, this People's Parliament, is going to do something, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of you can guess what it is this Parliament is going to do. What is it going to do? Mr. Speaker, not paying attention. Mr. Speaker, one of you can guess what this Parliament is going to do once we put the withdrawal agreement back. We're going to get Brexit done, Mr. Speaker. I think even your parrot, Mr. Speaker, would have been able to cite that one by now. And we are going to be able to get on with delivering on the priorities of the British people, transforming the NHS, investing massively in education, in police, uniting and levelling up across the country and across the whole UK. And it's my belief that most honourable members in this House believe we should resist the calls of those who would break up the United Kingdom. And as the Parliament of the United Kingdom, we should politely and respectfully defend that partnership and that union. And I can tell the House that after 3.5 years of wrangling and division, we in this government will do whatever we can to reach out across the House, to find common ground, to heal the divisions of our country, and to find a new and generous spirit in which we conduct all our political dealings with one another that will last beyond this immediate season of Christmas goodwill. And in that spirit, Mr. Speaker, I congratulate you once again on your election, and I look forward to months and years ahead under your guidance.
Can I call the Leader of the Opposition, Right Honourable Jeremy Corbyn?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister in remembering the horror of what happened on London Bridge less than 3 weeks ago? It's the third time in the last 2 general election campaigns we've witnessed these appalling and depraved terrorist attacks on our communities. And our hearts must go out to the families of Saskia Jones and Jack Merritt. And when the Prime Minister and I attended a memorial event at the Guildhall, I had the honour of meeting many of the students that had been at college with Jack, and they were just devastated. And in his memory, they wanted his work and his message to carry on. And I think we should remember the very good words of his father, David, about how proud he was of his son on that day. That attack was an attempt to damage our democracy, to halt the process. It didn't succeed, and it never should succeed, because we have to make sure that our democracy is fully intact. Mr. Speaker, I would like to offer my congratulations to the Prime Minister on winning the election and being returned to office. And I want to pay tribute to those members from my party particularly who sadly lost their seats in the election and therefore will not be here. In particular, well, there are many who can remember, but obviously Dennis Skinner is somebody that comes very much to mind on this occasion. And the Prime Minister in the campaign made many, many promises and therefore has tremendous responsibilities to live up to. He'll be judged on whether he keeps those promises or not by the communities that he's made them to. Our job in the Labour Party will be to hold this government to account and stand up for the communities that we represent and for the more than 10 million people that voted for our party in the general election, because that is what parliamentary democracy is about, holding government to account and representing the people that have sent us here on their behalf. Can I also, Mr. Speaker-elect, offer my congratulations to the Honourable Member for Worthing West on taking up his position of Father of the House. I first encountered him in the Woolwich West by-election in 1975. I was a trade union organiser at the time, and I made a very strong recommendation to all of my members of the union that they should vote for the Labour candidate and not him. Some of them went to see him and came back, and it's really quite embarrassing. They said, he seemed such a very nice man. We might well vote for him. So I don't want to further tarnish his reputation by saying that some years ago, whenever I was trying to get an all-party consensus together on an early day motion, sometimes a difficult task, he would often give it a Conservative character by supporting such moves. I want to thank him for that and wish him well as Father of the House. Can I take this opportunity to welcome all newly elected members to the House? It is a very daunting day for them, first day to be elected here on behalf of your constituents and all the responsibility that goes with it. There is no greater honour than to be elected to this House to represent your constituents. And one of the greatest strengths of our political system is that every one of us represents a community. Every one of us has a constituency. We're there to represent the homeless and the desperate, as well as those that are better off and lead more comfortable existences. We are there to represent all of them, and that surely ought to be the watchword of our House and our democracy. This is the first time a majority of Labour MPs are women, and I congratulate all of them that's been elected. And 20 of the 26 newly elected Labour MPs are women, something that compares rather favourably to the performance of the Conservative Party in this election. It's all right. This is also, Mr. Speaker-elect, the most diverse Parliament in history, and I'm proud that 41 of the 65 black and minority ethnic MPs are on the Labour benches, and I know they will do a fantastic job representing their constituencies and wider community interests. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to offer my warmest congratulations to you as you resume your place in the Speaker's chair. It's great to see you back. Your role goes beyond the pomp and the ceremony, and that's something you very well understand. And I'm keen to work with you, as many others are, on all the other issues facing this House. This House can't function without member staff, House staff, security, administration, caterers, cleaners and officials that do so much good work here. They all make a contribution to ensure our democracy functions properly. But there's also enormous pressure on MPs, on staff and many others. And I know that you take very seriously the mental health and well-being of all of us. And I hope in this House we will ensure that that is the case. Can I just conclude, Mr. Speaker, with this? In your House, there are portraits of many of your predecessors. Indeed, all of your predecessors have portraits all around there. And one of the most famous is, of course, Speaker Lenthal, who resisted the autocracy of Charles I in support of the freedoms of Parliament. Our democracy needs you, Mr. Speaker, as a Speaker who will stand firm against abuses of power by the executive or by anybody else. In doing so, you're not just defending the rights of this House, but the rights of millions of people who put their faith in a democratic system to elect a parliament and therefore a government that is answerable to them. Our rights and freedoms are always precious, but also often precarious. Democracy is not a given. It's something we have to extend and defend. And I'm sure you, in your role as Speaker-elect and hopefully Speaker very soon, will do exactly that. I congratulate you on your election and look forward to working with you.
Sir Peter, Father of the House.
The whole House will want to join with the expression by the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister about the tragedy from Fishmongers Hall in London Bridge. Can I say to the Leader of the Opposition that he only heard half of the Woolwich West story? It is I was a member of the 1/128 branch of the Transport and General Workers Union in Transport House and knew quite a lot about what was going on. I knew which MPs weren't standing again, like Peter Shaw. They hadn't applied for re-sponsorship and the like. It was a marvellous experience for me. And can I say to the Leader of the Opposition that none of us is always right, none of us is always wrong, and on the issues where he and I have agreed, I think we have been right. Mr. Speaker-elect, the advice you might give in private, but I'll give in public to those who are joining us for the first or even for the second time, is that they should listen to their whips, obey the chair, think of the interests of their constituents in the nation, and do what they think is right. I think that's the kind of thing that speakers would remind us to do. And can I conclude by saying that There are many good things to say about many of your predecessors, but I don't think any of them have been such a welcome choice as Speaker and Speaker again as you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker-elect. And can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition and the absolutely dreadful attacks at Fishmongers Hall and London Bridge? We must all stand together against terrorism and stand up together for democracy. Mr. Speaker-elect, the expanded SNP Westminster Group welcomes you to your new role. In the previous Parliament, I appreciated the fair and balanced approach taken by the last Speaker and have no doubt that you will conduct proceedings with the same vigour and transparency. These are uncertain and challenging times. The public are now looking at this place for leadership. We owe it to all of us, all of those who put their trust in us, to conduct debate here with respect and to treat each other with dignity. I wish you, Mr. Speaker-elect, the best wishes from the Scottish National Party, and I look forward to taking the case for Scotland in this new Parliament with integrity and with dignity. All the very best to you, Mr. Speaker-elect.
Mr. Speaker-elect, can I give you heartfelt congratulations from these benches and wish you the very best as you manage the proceedings of this House. In your election in the last Parliament, you struck a chord with many members when you spoke about improving the security of members, staff and our families. It is sad to say that you were right to lead on this, not least as we remember the two young victims of the terrorist attack on London Bridge, Saskia Jones and Jack Merritt, two young people dedicated to helping others who we should pay tribute today as this House returns. Mr. Speaker-elect, I was delighted in your acceptance speech before the last election that you spoke eloquently and positively about the speaking rights of smaller parties. And I can assure you And I can assure you, sir, that Liberal Democrat members want to make their voices heard. Not least on behalf of the 3.7 million people who voted for us on last Thursday. Under proportional voting, we would now easily be the third largest party in this House with 70 MPs, a fact which I know, sir, you will take account of. You will appreciate, Mr. Speaker-elect, that the last few days have been difficult for my colleagues and I, having seen our friend Jo Swinson lose her seat. Jo consistently said during the election that there is an issue even bigger than Brexit, namely the climate emergency. And on these benches, we'll be seeking your help as we raise this issue and argue for the radical climate change policies that Jo advocated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sir Geoffrey Dawes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker-elect. And on behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party, I want to associate ourselves with the remarks of the Prime Minister. From Northern Ireland, we know all too well the impact that terrorism can have and the devastation it reaps on families, and our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims of that atrocity. Could I congratulate you, Mr. Speaker-elect, on your re-election as Speaker? We regard you as someone who is fair and upholds the rights of all members in this House, and we look forward to working with you. Could I also congratulate the Prime Minister and the Conservative Party on their victory in the election, and we look forward to working with them going forward. And in particular, in relation to the matters the Prime Minister spoke of, the union of our United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And as the Prime Minister takes forward his proposals on Brexit, we want to ensure that Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom is secured and that the economic and political and constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom is respected. Could I also, Mr. Speaker-elect, pay tribute to my colleagues, the former member for Belfast North, Nigel Dodds, and the former member for Belfast South, Emma Little-Pengelly, who are not with us, but who made a massive contribution to the work of this House in the last Parliament, and indeed for Nigel over many years. Could I welcome the honourable member for Upper Bann to our ranks, but also, Mr Speaker-elect, the other members from Northern Ireland who are taking their seats today for the first time in this House, and we welcome the fact that they are here and take their seats unlike others, and will make, no doubt, a contribution to this House and to the democratic process. So, Mr Speaker-elect, we wish you well and all colleagues well in this Parliament, and we look forward to putting to outlining the voice of Northern Ireland along with our colleagues and ensuring that our place in this union is secure.
Savile Roberts.
Diolch yn fawr, darpar lefarydd a llongyfarchiadau chi yn eich parchus ar swydd newydd. And there has been no doubt in my mind, because I and many people here were present on that day on the 22nd of March 2017, that the leadership and the care that you showed to us on that day have inevitably given us the faith and the pleasure to return you here today. And of course, we sympathise with all the victims of terrorist attacks in the intervening time. And I would like to take the opportunity to call on you to work with the Llywydd in our Senedd in Wales and the presiding officer in the Scottish Parliament and the Speaker of the Northern Ireland Assembly in the spirit of equality and mutual respect. And I would call you as well to continue to develop the principles of equality and equality of voice and equality of opportunity, much of which was upheld in the Speaker's intern scheme, an excellent scheme which has brought people into this place who would not otherwise have had the opportunity. And I would just like to close by saying all members here today were returned in exactly the same way by our constituents. And those constituents all stand equal, regardless of whether their MP is a member of the government or the opposition, of a large party or of a small party, or indeed of a single representative here. All those constituents are equal and they deserve respect. And I have every confidence that you will ensure that their representatives here will have that equality of voice so that they can best represent their constituents. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Caroline Lucas.
Thank you. I join those who have paid tribute to the two young people who were tragically killed on London Bridge. Mr Speaker-elect, on behalf of a admittedly small party, but one with a lot of ambition, I should like to add my congratulations to you and to say that I know from my own experience just how serious you are when you say that you will champion the interests of all of us from smaller parties. With our democracy being tested to its limits in recent months, I look forward to seeing your strong sense of fairness prevail so that we can ensure that we hold the executive to account, especially by continuing to uphold your long tradition of giving backbenchers the opportunities to be heard and to play our part, no matter the size of the political party from which we hail. Thank you.
Now, call upon the Minister. Minister to move.
I have to signify to the House. Sorry. I have to signify to the House the pleasure of Her Majesty that the House should present their Speaker this day at 3:45 p.m. in the House of Peers for Her Majesty's royal approbation.
This House is suspended till 3:45. Thank you, everyone.